I'm going to start recording on this computer. And this is Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 147. I'm going to start recording.
Yeah, I think we got that. 147.
All right. This is Male Entrepreneur Podcast. Oh, wait. Yeah. Am I recording? I am recording. All right. Male Entrepreneur. Are you recording?
I'm recording, man.
All right. This is Male Entrepreneur Podcast, episode number 147. And we are live in 3, 2. All right. Welcome back to the Male Entrepreneur Podcast, the podcast for men who win, with your host, Purdeep Sangha. Purdeep, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We're jumping into a different line, or you can say topic today, because last week we talked about pain. I'm hoping that the audience didn't feel too much pain listening to the episode on pain. We try to keep it a little bit upbeat, but I thought that topic was important because, there's a lot of guys feeling it. It's a part of life. But we're gonna go on a different tangent. We're gonna talk about business today, specifically content and marketing, one of our favorite topics.
So you just launched a book, and you've got a new group coaching program that you're about to launch, and you go heavy in content marketing. You've been telling me about some of the stuff that's working for you and not working for you, and this is such a it's an ever evolving topic. And so I just kind of wanted to talk. I'm sure I'll have some input as well, but I wanted to kind of hear what you've got going on as far as what your content strategy looks like right now and what you're planning for the next year into 2021.
Yeah, cool. Great question or statement. The first thing is, for you out there listening, even if you're not an influencer, for example, you don't have a traditional, or I shouldn't say traditional, a business that focuses a lot on digital marketing, it's important. Content is super important. That's what gets people to buy, notice you, really get interested in your products and your services. So content, we're going to talk about that as a whole, because whether it's digital marketing from an ads perspective or search engine optimization, which we call SEO, it's important for your business. You got to get content out there so more people know about you and want to buy from you. So this applies to every single business owner. So I've kind of doubled down in 2 areas, Nathan. We are doing more, actually 3 areas. One is in particular is LinkedIn. We're doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn now because LinkedIn is more professional. I'm just tired of Facebook, as I mentioned before in one of the previous episodes. Instagram, I'm finding actually more guys are going on Instagram now. It's really interesting. And a lot more business development. Those are the 3 areas. But from a content perspective on LinkedIn, here's what I found, because everybody is going into video, right? And we tried video for a while, and I think video is good. It works for guys like Gary Vee and stuff like that. And we still do video of these episodes and so forth. But what I found was I started writing more blogs. And I started putting those blogs out there, and we're getting way better reach. We're getting a bigger audience. We're getting way more attention. I'm getting a lot more feedback saying, thank you for writing this blog from people out there. So I thought that people were kind of straying away from reading things and more into watching videos, as you'll hear a lot of digital marketing experts say video is king, right? Video is king. That's the wave of the future. I don't know about that, because we're getting better reach. We're getting better engagement through people reading our blogs now. It seems like the guys that we're going after still like to read.
I think,
or should I say can read?
I think, man, that's a totally different topic that we could go down. I think that there's strengths and weaknesses to both. I'm a copywriter, so I am more prone to favor written content. I also, I guess it depends. Like if you're on Facebook or you're on one of the platforms, there's so much to compete with, and it's hard to keep people's attention with video. And I've noticed though that if you've got some well written out content, you can stop people and they'll stop their scroll. Oh, geez, Louise. I apologize for that. Um,
You're fired.
yeah, Brett, please edit out that part. uh, but I've noticed though that for more professional people, the video is not, maybe it's the market. For more professional people, they actually enjoy, a lot of them enjoy taking the time to just slow down and read and ponder. With video, it's at the pace of the content creator. With written content, it's at the pace of the consumer, so they can read it, they can stop, and they can mull over an idea that they had or an aha moment that they had. But with video, it just keeps going, so as soon as they have that aha moment, it's overtaken by the next 30 seconds of the person talking. So I think that you're right. I think that especially for a more um distinguished, I guess, market, I think that the written content is still kind of the king there.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I think there's two things that pop up for me there. Here's what's happening, because there's a lot of social media content that's coming out, and it's hard for people to actually get something from a video post, right? Like a 60. Here's what they've said, and our research is actually showing the same, that it's tough to keep someone's attention more than 30 seconds now. That's why TikTok, right? Like the 7 second bumping back and forth or half naked girl or whatever it is approach is working for a lot of people. But it's hard to keep people's attention on video now. You have to have a very engaging video. But for someone that wants to get value from a video, how are you going to get value from a video that's only 30 seconds? It's very tough. And so people want entertainment, and I think that's where video is still doing well. But to get value out of something, I think people still have to either watch a longer video, for example, something on YouTube like youtubeformen.com, or if you read a post, for example. And I think for me, I think that really stands out, especially, or maybe it's just our generation, Nathan, because we grew up reading, right? We grew up reading novels and stuff like that, and maybe the next generation is going to change. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Let me take that back, because my son's 7 years old and he's an avid reader. Like, he loves books. His favorite thing is to go to Chapters and get books. So I'm going to take that back, because I think it's still in us to read.
Yeah, Bella, mine and Bella's favorite thing still is to go to the bookstore. She has a library of, God, probably close to 100 books now. So, I mean, she's all about TikTok, but she loves books too. So I don't think that reading is going to completely go away. But sometimes when I look at the stuff that people post on Facebook or Twitter, especially like the shortened versions of words and the there, and there, how everybody misuses those three words. I do kind of worry about about people's reading comprehension, and I'm not sure. I think there's evidence for both ways. Maybe some people are still clinging on to reading, but a lot of people, man, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I think every business needs to test it out and see if blogs actually work for you. We're finding that it's working well for us. I think that is a strong content strategy, especially on LinkedIn. I'm finding that LinkedIn is favoring blog articles over video now.
Well, and that brings up something that you should always take into consideration. If you're creating content on LinkedIn, or if you're creating content on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, a lot of times you're helping that platform.
Hmm.
LinkedIn is one of the few platforms that still allows your content to be shown to people if it links out. A lot of, like Facebook, if you put a link in it that takes people away from Facebook, they dampen it in the algorithm. They say, don't show this to very many people. YouTube, same thing. If you put a link to your website in the YouTube comment section, YouTube says, don't show this video to very many people. LinkedIn is one of the few websites that they still allow the algorithm to push your content up, even if you're linking off of their site. So, and by doing that, you're building your website's audience. So, when you told me that you were doing that, I was like, man, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And SEO, I think a lot of people, here's a gap that we're seeing. A lot of people have jumped from let's say if you have a traditional business, one of the first things you'll probably hear from a lot of digital marketers is go with digital ads, like Facebook ads, for example. And I agree that Facebook ads are effective, but what I'm seeing now is a lot of businesses are going from just a normal marketing strategy to Facebook ads, and they're forgetting about their website and they're forgetting about SEO, search engine optimization. I think it's a longer play in terms of the benefit, but I think it's that much more important. Remember that if someone searches something and you're at the top or top 5 or top 7, you're going to get a lot of traffic for the long haul, and you don't have to pay for that traffic.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. One of the things that we've been noticing, because I've been doing SEO, I do SEO copywriting. One of the things that we've been noticing is that if we're one of the top 3 search results, a lot of times now Google and Apple are just stealing that content,
Hmm.
because when you say, "Hey Google, what's a good recipe for an apple pie?" Google doesn't want to send you to the website. They just want to take that recipe and they just say it to you right there, because a lot of people are doing phone search now. And
Alexa.
so, yeah, exactly. Or Alexa or Siri, and they don't want to actually read. So now, if you're one of those top 3, Google and Apple are just stealing your. I guess stealing may not be the right word, but they're just taking that content and they're reading it back to people, or vocally expressing it to people, and that means you're not getting the traffic to your website. So that's why when you said you were going from LinkedIn to your website, that was like, oh man, why have I not been taking advantage of that like Purdeep is?
And I didn't know that. And it's really interesting that you say that, because that brings up a bigger question: is where can you actually own your own platform? And there's very few places, right? Social media, you don't own a single thing. They can change an algorithm. Now it seems like Google is doing what Amazon did, is, we'll find out what the best stuff is selling and we'll just copy it and sell it ourselves. It's interesting. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs are wondering, okay, so what is the best route? What do you actually own out there? And there's very little assets. For example, podcasting is probably one of the very few things that you can own yourself at a very low cost. But we also know now that podcasting is becoming very saturated. I know a lot of podcasters out there that are saying, you know, we've run out of topics for episodes, or we have to go from doing it weekly to bi-weekly because we don't want to burn out our audience. And so there's a lot of questions out there right now.
Uh-huh. I think in it's not as accessible as it needs to be, but I honestly believe that I think that having your own app, building your own community on your own app, and having your own content behind an app wall, I think that that's going to be probably the new better way to build an audience coming up in the future. But right now it's still a little bit too prohibitive. It's still the barriers to get in on app development is still a little too high. But I think as we move forward, I think that that's probably going to be the way that marketing goes in the future. Especially when it comes to content, you get special content if you sign up for the app. And then once you're in the app, maybe there's upsells for even better content. Um, that's just kind of where as a marketer, I think that that's where the market is going to end up going.
Well, let me ask you, because I'm really interested. We've actually been taking a look at that from a perspective, because I always wanted my own app for the company. I just wanted to see our logo on an app. Like, that was just my goal. And we've been doing some research, and some people, here's the dilemma: you hire someone to build it, and then you got to keep it maintained, right? You got to get the developers to keep it for every update, iOS and Android. It's just a pain in the butt. The other thing is, you go buy it you buy it from a distributor that's branding it for you, and then you're at their mercy too, because they're selling it to everybody else. So there's some challenges with that as well. But Nathan, I want to pick your brain here. What are your thoughts in terms of, from a marketing perspective, or as a user, more mainly as a user, if you were going to let's just say, take my coaching, for example, and it was on an app, would that give you a different feeling than if it was just on a website as well?
Uh, Ease of accessibility is the main thing that apps have going for them. I just click a button, and you can do this with a progressive web app. Apple kind of is trying to shut down progressive web apps, whereas Google and Android seem to be very open to them. We'll have to see where the market goes on progressive web apps, but being able to just push a button, automatically be logged in, automatically be able to access everything that I've got access to, versus having to go to my browser, having to go to the website, having to log in, having to push my remember my password button, and then having to go through the whole website experience. Having just that button right there on my home screen of my phone that automatically takes me to all that stuff. And the other difference is with a website, you're developing it as a website. Maybe you have like a learning center, maybe you have a learning plugin for your WordPress or whatever, but it's still developed as a website versus developed as an app, or developed as a progressive web app. I think the ease of use for the customer is the thing. And through web apps, you can, or through phone apps, you can message people directly.
Yeah.
You can send notifications. So you're going straight to the notifications screen on their phone that you can't do through a website or through a mobile app or through a mobile progressive web app quite as easily. So I just think for ease of use and for ease of communication, I think that that's where, as soon as it's the hurdles that you mentioned, as soon as we figure out a way to get over those barriers to entry, I think that that's going to be what takes over marketing in the very near future.
Yeah, I think it's important. The branding aspect is so important. I didn't know that Apple was actually trying to. It makes sense though, because they're all about closed environment, to get rid of the progressive web apps, because those are interesting. I've tried some. I've tried the web apps, and they just still don't have that same feeling or the navigation ability,
Yeah.
which which is the crappy part. But I think these are all ideas for people to take into consideration, because ultimately it all comes down to marketing. It all comes down to keeping people's attention. Getting their attention and keeping their attention is always at the forefront now, and it's become a mass. Like, again, Nathan, I want to get your take on it. For me, that is the crux of marketing right now. How do you get people's attention, and how do you keep their attention?
Mhm.
That seems like it's the biggest factor.
Yeah, attention's the most valuable resource right now.
And what are you seeing companies do to get people's attention?
A lot of stuff that I'm not really comfortable doing actually in my marketing. And we've talked about this in the past. A lot of the algorithms now are using psychologically addictive techniques to keep people dopamine dripped on their platforms. A lot of things to basically keep people addicted to their stuff. And I get it. I understand why, but I'm also kind of like, uh, I don't want I don't want junkies to be my target audience. I so maybe it's just a difference of who I want using my stuff or attracted to my stuff. But a lot of the stuff we've talked about, some of the stuff in the past that I think both me and you are like, I'm not really comfortable doing some of that stuff, and it's probably why people have negative views of marketers, because a lot of marketers are all gung ho about it.
Hmm. Do you have any suggestions for the listeners out there when it comes to content? Because you're a master, you're a copywriter. If we talk about, what are two things that you think people should pay attention to?
As far as content goes, my two main things are uh, number one, your content should be all about reframing the way that your audience or your market looks at things. A lot of times, if you're marketing to the right people, they're almost at the point where they want to buy, but they have a couple of negative beliefs, either about
Mm,
themselves, about your market, about the world in general, that's preventing them from buying. So your content should always be about overcoming those negative beliefs, reframing those negative beliefs so that they see the the way that they should see things in order to help them make the buying decision. The other thing is content should be about building a connection, making people feel like a bond with you. A lot of my best content is, I think the highest converting email that I've ever sent out was a story about peeing my pants in kindergarten because the teacher wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. It's terribly embarrassing. It's a real story. It's something that was traumatic enough that I remembered it 20, 25 years later. I still remember it happening. And I guess 35 years later now. And um, more, I've had more people hit me back off of that email and say, hey, I want to work with you because of this story. So bonding with people, establishing that bond is so important. So I think that those are the two main things in content that I think people out there should be focusing on.
And you and I had a conversation about this backstage, and I've heard this over and over again from people that have read my book, The Complete Man, is they're picking up on the stories more than just the content themselves. And that's why, we talked about this. I'm doing the audiobook myself rather than having a narrator do it, is because to build that connection with, excuse me, the listeners. But that's a really good point. Content, I think, more than just factual, it's about connection.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, as much as I, was in the marketing space for a long time, Nathan, I didn't realize how strong that was until I got feedback on the book. Like there's the guys that just reached out and said, I didn't know that about you. Or I've gone through a similar situation. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like it's okay for me to feel this way now.
Yeah. That connection aspect, you can't underestimate the value of it. You mentioned the book. Where can people go to check the book out if they want to get a copy?
Yeah, check out completemanbook.com. And I highly encourage you, because that page, that you can say the web page, was also written by Nathan. And Nathan is a master copywriter. But I want you to pay attention. We're talking about content today. Pay attention to the content on the page, because it is about connection. It's about a story, and it's about real life stuff that guys go through and face. And so if you can take the tips from that page and apply that in your marketing, I think you're going to go that much further. So I highly encourage you just to check it out. Even if you're not going to get the book, go to completemanbook.com and get some pointers and tips for your content for your business.
Awesome. And if people want to check out more episodes of the podcast,
well, you go to youtubeformen.com. You can see us live, or mailpodcast.com.
Awesome. Purdeep, we kind of went all over the place with this episode. I appreciate you taking the time, though. And until next time, man, I will catch you later.
Yeah, this one was fun. Take care.